Thank you for taking out the time to join us today on a Friday evening. Everybody has plans to do something fun tonight, but education is as much as fun. Um, so this webinar today is led by our head of academics, Ms. Prachi Mittal. And I am Shubhangi, and I'm part of the branding and communications team here at AND. Um, but before we dive right into the presentation for the day, I would like to talk a little bit about what is AND and what is it we do here at AND and why do we do it and how do we do it. So AND Academy is a one-of-a-kind design upskilling platform launched by the Indian Institute of Art and Design, which is a brick and mortar institution here in New Delhi in Okhla. IIAD was established in collaboration with Kingston School of Art, London. And actually comes from the design pedigree of IIAD. It is backed by a decade of experience of imparting design education. And we offer professional courses in the domains of graphic design, interior design, and UX/UI design, which is what we'll be discussing here today. All of our courses here at AND are delivered in a live and interactive sort of a model. And through that, we steer away from traditional models of learning by optimizing for accessibility and convenience so that people can learn and work together. Um, our motto here at AND is to make design education accessible, affordable, and industry relevant. And we do that through our stackable short courses that cater to people who come from varied backgrounds. So you may come from a design background or a non-design background. Our courses are designed in a way that you begin from the very fundamentals and then you build your expertise as you go on. And the industry relevant bit of it comes together because of our mentors who are industry front runners and experts and also practitioners, but also educators. So you always get, latest or what is happening in the industry knowledge from people who are practicing, but also teaching and are experts in what they do. We combine expert mentorship, practical training, and industry exposure to guide you towards a better future in the industry. All of our courses have a very strong career angle built into the curriculum. And I'm guessing we'll soon be joined by one of our we are already. So Azhar has already joined us. So Azhar is part of our career services division here at AND, and he'll be able to, shed more light on the career angle, how that is integrated into the course. With that, let's begin this webinar. So as I mentioned before, this webinar is led by our head of academics, and I would like to introduce her. Prachi is a designer, educator, and a researcher. She brings 25 plus years of industry and academy experience to the table. Her practice spans the disciplines of product design, social design, publication design, and design management. Her expertise lies in curriculum development, strategic use of pedagogy and technology, and academic processes for design education. A graduate from NIFT New Delhi, she has also completed a PG certification in higher education from Kingston University, London. With that, I hand over to Prachi, ma'am. Please take over.
Thank you, Shubhangi, and good evening, everybody. Welcome to AND's webinar on UX UI. I just want to begin by saying that I do have a bad throat today, so pardon me if I cough or if I sound hoarse during the evening. Just bear with me. What we're going to cover today is that we'll begin by understanding what really UX UI is. So demystify this term, which has become very popular. We'll spend the first half an hour of the webinar doing exactly that. And then we'll do a walkthrough of one of our student work. And then very quickly, we'll walk you through the courses at AND. And finally, the last 15 minutes of the webinar are reserved to answer your questions if you have any. I request you to use the Q&A tab on your menu to put in your questions, not the chat, please, but the Q&A tab. And we'll take all the questions towards the end of this webinar. So without much ado, let's quickly begin. Now, this is when I meet a UX UI aspirant. I ask them, what do you understand about UX UI? These are some of the statements that I get from them. That it is the UX is about the overall experience, how a user feels, and the user interface is about how it looks. And then when I probe further, they say that we have to do research and we have to think about what color people like and which font is good. If we can add illustrations, animations, make everybody feel good about the interactions that are happening. All of this is right. None of it is wrong, but it is incomplete as a picture. So let's try and do that. And when I like to understand something deeply, I begin by breaking that into parts and understanding, going back to the dictionary to understand the meaning of each word. So we're going to do just that over here. In user experience design, I think user is fairly, we all understand it. It's a person who uses or operates something. But experience and design are two words which we think we understand, but requires a little bit of scraping of the surface. So experience is when something happens to you, and in that you do feel and you have thoughts, right? So anything which happens to you accompanied by some actions, some thoughts, some feelings, that's experience. And what is design? Now, design is a very interesting word because you can use design as a noun, like a thing. So we use that when we say it's a rangoli design, it is a nice design. You use it instead of a motif, nice design, or your dress, a mehendi design. That's when we're using it like a noun. But in the professional space, and those of us who are practitioners of design, we refer to design as a verb, as an action word. And what that means is to plan or make something with a specific purpose in mind, right? Every word here is important, that you're planning it and there is a specific purpose in mind, right? And let's piece this together, these three dictionary meanings, let's piece it together to create a definition or for user experience design. So it's therefore an intentional process. It doesn't happen by accident. It doesn't happen from, I think it needs to be this. It can't happen from my assumptions. It's an intentional process by which we create a product or a service or an environment, right? That addresses specific needs. So it's not just a product that meets, that's for users, but it meets specific needs of its operators, and it stimulates, it causes the users or the operators to respond in a particular way, the way we want, right? So it's a controlled process and an outcome that makes user experience design what it is, right? Let's move to then what is user interface. And again, the dictionary meaning of interface is quite simple: surface, the way something is presented, or the means through which a user receives information or two different systems connect. So right now, you are one system, I am another system, Shubhangi is the third system, and the three of us are connected through the interface of Zoom, right? The plane through which we can connect, make contact, interact. Okay, so it's very easy to think that it is about the aesthetics or the just the visual design of it. It is visual design, but what is included in the visual design is worth understanding, right? So it's not about making something beautiful or attractive, because that is like translating and saying that humans like anything that is beautiful and attractive, and that makes them feel good, and we all want good looking products. it's not wrong, but it's not complete. What good is this? So I'm sitting here with a remote in my hand. What good is it if it looks really beautiful and attractive? But when I start using it, I start struggling that, okay, I know my AC has a feature in which I can change the direction of the breeze that it is throwing, but I'm not able to figure it out how to do it on my remote, right? So the technology has enabled my AC with this feature, but I don't know how to use it because the interface of my remote is confusing or is not making it easy for me to figure out how to do this, right? So user interface design, therefore, is about effective communication. It's not only about things being pretty. I'm not saying that they can look ugly, but it's not only that. It is about creating effective communication so that the user and the product interacts easily, right? So if I want to unmute myself or if I want to look at what you are writing right now, the interface makes it easy for me to figure out how to do it, makes it possible for me to do it, to take the desired action, and makes it compelling for me to use it, right? Otherwise, there can be a feature which is available, but I won't end up using it, right? And that is how user interface influences the user experience, because I, I'm not able to use it. And there goes my feeling good about it, right? Just a little disclaimer here that today, in today's time, UX UI design is often interchangeably used for what about a decade ago was called as website design or web development and um, web designing, right? What people are saying is, actually, when they say this, is that okay, it is about designing websites, and now we call mobile applications, right? We also include mobile applications in it, basically digital products. So Paytm is a digital product, Gmail is a digital product, the and website is a digital platform, right? And we think that UX UI is about these things only. Actually, the discipline of UX UI expands beyond the digital experiences. It includes all non-digital experiences also, like being in the airport and finding your way around the airport, navigating where are the washrooms, where are the areas for, or the food court, where can I pick up my baggage. If my baggage is lost, how do I go and figure out where that happens? If I want to book a cab from inside the airport, where does that happen and how does that happen? Or if I want to book cab, pick up a get picked up at a place, how do I figure that out the moment I have entered an airport terminal? So on and so forth, right? So UX UI as a discipline actually goes beyond both digital and non-digital, but at and our course focuses on um, only the digital products, right? So websites and mobile applications. That's what we training is focused on. The principles remain the same, whether it is digital or analog, but some techniques, tools, methods, and technical understanding changes. Right? In the short course and a part-time course, we are able to comprehensively cover only the digital platforms. Um, so that brings me to this interesting statement that UX UI design takes a human first approach. So what's really special about UX UI design, and why should we even have a discipline like that? Why can't it be just web designing, what it was called in the good old days? Why do we need a term like UX UI design? It is uh, to bring to attention this idea of taking a human first approach. Now, it seems simple, it seems commonsensical. Of course, products are for people. So, if you are designing products that are to be used by people, it needs to take the user centered approach, human centered approach, human first approach. It goes, it's rhetorical, it's very, very commonsensical. But what does it really mean? And in my experience, I've seen things which are very, very simple and commonsensical are most misunderstood or not fully understood, right? So let's look at that. So let's go back a little in history. Some of you may have seen this telephone, uh, or may have seen it, used it as well, or some of you may have just seen it in museums or curio shops or in period dramas now. This was the era when you dialed up the phone. So you took your finger around and you went round and round and you dialed and then you got connected, right? But then technology came and there was electronic technology available and you could do push buttons, right? The way you push buttons on your remote, the telephone changed from this to the push button technology. Now the technology was there. Now our people who were making these telephones were posed by these crucial design decisions. What do we do? Should we use round buttons, square buttons? How do we arrange them? They knew that they will need 0 to 1 and whatever, redial and blah, blah, blah. How big should they be? How should we arrange them? These are questions. Today we take it for granted the way it is arranged. But at that time, for the first time, somebody was thinking about it. These were important questions to answer. And these are some of the different options that they thought of. So because people are used to taking their fingers around, let's arrange all the buttons like that only. Let's imitate that. Or maybe let's arrange them into 2 rows of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then the rest of the digits down. Let's take inspiration from calculators. Calculators existed. They also needed the 10 digit. So let's take inspiration from the calculator and then just replicate that, right? I don't know how many of you have noticed. The layout of the calculator and the push button telephone looks very similar, but actually the digits are arranged very differently, right? So homework for all of you today, go back and do that comparison. I'm not telling what's the difference, but the layout looks the same, but they're arranged differently. Anyways, moving on, we have this gentleman to thank for, John Carlin. He was an interesting person who was an industrial psychologist. What does that mean? He was bringing together his understanding of psychology or behavior science, which is a science that explains how humans behave, how do they react to different stimuli, right? And he was an engineer who understood industrial design. So he was bringing these two understandings together into this research that let's figure out which is the best way to arrange these digits and the size and the shape of the buttons that makes it easier for humans to use it because they remember the numbers, the phone number in a certain way, and all of that. His research led to the design of the interface of the push button telephone, and it has informed the design of many things that have followed. The ATM interface, gas pumps, if you go in India, they're not very popular, but in abroad, you can key in your own amount and all of that, and it's a self-service gas station. Door locks, electronic door locks, where you can put in a passcode. Vending machines, medical equipments, anything with push buttons. A lot of the work that he did has influenced it, and that's why he's called the father of human factors engineering, bringing the human factor to engineering and not just keeping engineering to increasing efficiency, reducing time, reducing resources, reducing error margins, using technology for doing all of that, right? So he brought in the human factor into the engineering, and that is actually, if you trace back the history of UX, that's where it goes back to, right? Let's try and understand this a little bit more by using, I think, 2 examples I'm using here. Now, this was a problem that was given to a design lab in America. You might be familiar with the name. It's called IDEO, IDEO, right? So So the IDEO Design Lab is one of the forefronts of design thinking. The people who propose design thinking as a process, as a method, are the founders of IDEO, right? So they were approached to sort of create a device that nurses could use to enter data during specific medical procedures, right? So when you're doing a procedure, there's a lot of patient data that nurses need to enter, which the doctors would refer to later. So they were approached to create a device. Now, what you see on the left is what the client thought that they'll get, like something very swanky, something like that. But IDEO, because what they did was they said, before we get down to the drawing board and start designing, we're going to explore what really happens. We're going to observe our users in action, right? They observed something very interesting, that during these procedures, the nurses play another role of pacifying or soothing the patients. They sometimes hold the hand of their patient, or the patient needs that reassurance, which means that the nurse has only one hand available to sort of enter the data that they have to enter, or otherwise they will have to leave the patient's hand, right? And that really impacts the experience of not just the nurse, actually the patient, who is also a stakeholder in this entire process, right? And their needs also need to be addressed. So this is the device they actually came up with, right? Doesn't look as swanky as what they thought they will get, but works better. So it's something that works with a scroll. You can hold it in your hand, use your thumb to scroll, and some buttons on the side, and it can be operated with one hand to enter, right? So that's what we mean by taking a human first approach, where you approach the problem at hand and understand the human factors involved. Here's another example. Again, IDEO was hired by Oral-B to design a new toothbrush for kids. Now, very simple. We have toothbrushes for adults. Kids are tiny humans. Let's just scale down the toothbrush that adults have. Let's make it smaller. A child is 1/3 the size of humans. Let's bring it down. Okay, we can do some exercise in measuring the hand span of a child and so on and so forth, and do a scale down, right? But something very interesting was observed as they were trying to understand the human side of this problem. They realized that little children have a different way of gripping anything, whether it is a spoon or a toothbrush or a fork, anything which is like that. And that is because as a child, your motor skills, your hand dexterity, your muscles haven't developed to to a pinch grip, right? They have this whole fist grip, and that is why children hold their toothbrush differently. Now, what does this mean? This means that the shape of the toothbrush itself needs to change, right? And that's how they came up with this, what is known as the squish gripper, right? It was created not to make it attractive for the children, right? All of that was also brought in later, but essentially it was solving the problem of the grip, which is unique to children of the age. And this, by the way, is how you take a human first approach or a human centered approach to solving problems and creating products that have to be used for people, right? So we need to create products that follow human behavior. It understands their needs, desires, pain points, fears, not only the obvious ones, but also the ones which are out there but which we can ignore, right? So the reason I put the image of this bean bag here is because if you What's the difference between a beanbag and a chair? So a chair is, when I sit on the chair, I have to adjust my posture as per the chair. Yes, I can adjust the height and the incline and all of that, but I have to adjust. So, which I'm going to do right now. If I want backrest, I'm going to move back and I'm going to do this. But what happens in case of a beanbag? The beanbag adjusts its shape as per the user. So I'm not saying that beanbag is a better UX design than chair, but what I'm saying is design needs to take this approach where the product adapts to humans, and not that you wait for humans to figure out how the product is and adapt to the product. Because I can give you a badly designed product, eventually you will learn to use it, right? But that's not how products should be designed. So eventually, that child would have learned how to use that toothbrush even without the grip being designed in the way it was. Eventually, the nurses would have figured out a way to use that device to key in the data. They would have figured out, and but that's not how design needs to be approached. Okay, so a human first approach to design involves thinking about a whole lot of whys. How well does this product meet a user's need? Does it really fulfill its function? How do users interact with the product? Is it easy to use? Can I navigate it easily? If I want to search for a feature, can I find it easily? Does it uh, does it address my emotional needs, my pain points, right? All of these uh, have to be addressed, and there are methods and ways to address it. There are tools and techniques that you can use, but above all, you need to start thinking very differently. It's an attitudinal shift that gradually happens through training in professionals. And that is really the crux or the core of UX design, because this is the sweet spot where your product should be desirable by the user, it should be viable for the business. I can make a product desirable for the user, but it's not viable for me. I'm going to make losses in that while making or selling that product. And it has to be feasible by technology. It's not something which requires outer space intervention, right? There's technology that makes it feasible. So in the sweet spot here is where UX UI design needs to operate, and um, and that requires um, strategic thinking, right? Uh, that cannot be done by just learning software. And I put this slide because a lot of times when candidates meet me to about our course or whatever, and they say that, will you teach us Figma? What tools of Figma will you teach us? Will you teach us XD? Will you teach us this? Yes, of course we will. But being a UX designer goes beyond knowing the software. Of course, you have to know the software. It is like Excel is to an accountant, right? So knowing how to use Excel doesn't make you an accountant. You also need to understand the principles of accountancy, right? So you need to understand the principles of design, and software then becomes the tool through which you apply those principles to finally make what you have to make. So I use Excel to make my balance sheet, but I have to understand all the concepts and principles of accountancy before I can do that, right? So a designer has to wear many hats, that of a researcher, um, so that you gather evidence, gather requirements, not operate from assumptions, but your work is evidence based, understanding research data that you gather, how to gather it, how to make sense out of it. That's important. Even if you don't want to become a researcher, you have to take the attitude of a researcher. You have to be a planner. How do I convert the insights the findings that I got as part of my research, even if somebody else is doing that research, how do I interpret all of that, put it into a plan, um, that what are going to be the different pages on my website, and what is going to come first, what is going to go on which page, how will my user move from here to there. All of this is planning. It doesn't You don't see screens, you do a lot of you know flow charts and things like that. You have to be a thinker. Sometimes you have to think logically, sometimes you have to think imaginatively, and because you need to combine both to solve these problems. You have to be a maker. So after your research and planning and thinking that you have done, all these ideas that are in your head, how do they translate into actual screens? You have to be a maker. And above all, you have to be a lifelong learner, because with every project you learn one more aspect of uh, human uh, factor, or usability, or utility, or something about technology, or something you will learn and you will use it in your next project, right? So on that note, let's move to my other tab and see a student work. Now, this is the work of one of our alumni, Veda. Veda now works for a UX design studio in Mumbai, and she did our PG diploma in UX, right? And what Veda has done is, I won't have time to go through the entire process in detail, but I'll give you an overview of it, right? Veda was doing something very interesting. Um, she was looking at uh, coconut vendors, the tender coconut, green coconut vendors in her city, and trying to figure out a way to um, help their sort of business, right? So she realized. So she went through. You can see this is her process, right? She did her interviews. She tried to understand what problem they are facing. She pulled out what we call as insights, and then she picked up a problem and started thinking about the various ways in which she could solve the problem. So let's see what actually uh, you know did she discover. So what she discovered is that there is a network of coconut vendors in any area, which are, who sit on all these roadsides and are selling coconut to people like you and me. But behind them is a whole supply chain. So there are these wholesalers, multiple of them, and they come and deliver coconuts to different vendors. Right now, as a vendor, I might be buying from two different wholesalers also, or I might buy from one wholesaler. And similarly, the wholesaler, of course, is supplying to many vendors. Now, there is no system to it, and the wholesaler comes and in a tempo or in whatever, and drops X number of coconuts to you. Now, as a vendor, I have to be in that roadside stall that I have, and to to get these coconuts from him. And I don't know when that guy is going to come. They have no schedule around it. There's no way for me to know when he's arriving. Is he arriving at his regular time? Is he arriving at a different time? So on and so forth. If someday I need my delivery sooner or later, I have to call. He may forget. Um, I want 10 extra coconuts. I don't want a delivery today. There's a problem in my family. I call him. He may remember, he may not remember. He'll pick up a phone, he won't pick up a phone, so on and so forth, right? And so sometimes I'm not there. The wholesaler comes, he drops my 25 coconuts on over there on my thela and moves on because I was not there. When I come, I discover there are only 22 coconuts. Now, the time comes to payment. My wholesaler fights with me. There were 25 coconuts. I'm going to charge you for 25. I say there were only 22 coconuts, so on and so forth. Right? Now, that is a problem that Veda was trying to solve. Right? Um, so, this is really her articulation of this. You simplify the problem. It seems very complex when I was telling you the loopiness, right? So, if the vendor keeps waiting for the supplier, then there is time wasted in waiting. If the vendor is not waiting over there, then the supplier reaches, coconuts might be stolen before the vendor can reach, right? Simple understanding of the problem. So what did she do? She started working with a lot of, so there are a whole lot of methods that we do. And then she started figuring out what really needs to be on her app, right? So she realized that there are going to be, of course, some tracking methods, some features. She decided that the vendor should be able to place a delivery, delay a delivery, cancel a delivery, track the supplier. Uh, it should also be able to help me chat with other vendors, chat with other suppliers. So it's a platform she designed which brought vendors and suppliers together. So I can chat with other suppliers and maybe move out of a supplier to another supplier. Can I have a supplier group? And so on and so forth, right? And then some essentials like onboarding, you have to register and so on and so forth, have a profile, keep my records of, how many coconuts every day I bought and so on and so forth. And therefore, similarly for the supplier also, record keeping for the supplier. Figuring this out, you can seem very simple once Veda has laid it out, but to actually figure it out is where the work of the UX designer is. And then now, when I want all of these features, how do I plan my app, right? So, what's going to be on home? There's going to be a chat, there's going to be this, there's going to be this. Deciding these four pages on the app, and putting these things under what comes under where. This is the meat of the UX design work, right? And we do a lot of these kind of flow charts where you're actually trying to figure out what will be the journey of my user. And the user doesn't always, all users don't have the same journey. Different users will have different ways of navigating the application. The same user also navigates that application in different ways on different days. So you have to understand all of these things, right? From there she started to think about how it can look, and all of these which don't look impressive, it actually has to start from here. Because and so here you can see, she we call this the crazy eight method, where for everything she's thinking of eight different ways in which she can have a screen. So if I want to track, map is one, something else is another, this is another. If I want a chat, what can it be? So she's thinking of all these rough ideas, right? And then she would have done, she's not, this is her portfolio page, she's not really shown, but she did a analysis of, or an evaluation of, which of these ideas is working better. And then she converted them into her wireframes, right? And then doing her wireframes, she took a lot of feedback from her potential users, as well as there are other methods also, like a heuristic evaluation and talking to experts and so on and so forth. And then she realized that, okay, she was using a very different method to earlier, but later she realized that, for her user group, having these big cards is what will be helpful, right? That After that, she moved to what we call as the skin, or the final layer of the design. That, okay, now I'm going to paint on this wireframe that I have created. So what is the color palette I'm going to use? What are the typography I'm going to use? What are the different icons that I will use, right? And these decisions are also not random. They are based on, of course, what all your platform needs, but also your user, their digital literacy level, a few other things, about maybe who's going to use it. Are they going to use it on holding one hand, two hands, fat fingers, shaky fingers, people using this who need specs but don't normally wear specs. You figure out all of these things, that what is my user group and their specific needs. So all these visual design decisions are also not aesthetic or beauty based, right? And then she started painting on her wireframes. In so I mean, this is also part of her planning, where she's figuring out all the tasks that my users have to fulfill, what is the flow of that, right? So place the delivery, then check your inventory, enter your number, confirmation, and then for every step there are screens, right? This is the other. If I have to delay my delivery, how am I going to do it? You know, so on and so forth. If I have to cancel a delivery, what will be my steps? So what you see here, the simple flow is what you do as part of your planning. You develop your wireframes, then you paint them here, right? um, and so on and so forth. Whole lot of work. And let's look at her final outcome. I hope it loads. Yeah, wonderful. They're not, oops, sorry. Let's just watch it again. Right, I'm not going to talk you through it. I think it's fairly self-explanatory. I'll let you enjoy it. So now the vendor is joining a group, suppliers group, and there is the live tracking. Now he's saying that, okay, delay my delivery. I'm not at my place. Delay it or cancel it for today. Or you can cancel it for tomorrow as well. This is interesting. Transferring the delivery. So she figured out that the same vendor has multiple selling locations. So he's saying that आज मुझे मेरे इस वाले स्टॉल पे नहीं चाहिए, वहां पे चाहिए, right? So you can transfer a delivery. And that's how you start tracking your delivery, right? And this is now how you can chat with your vendor or your supplier or other vendors. So you're entering how many I have already, how many I have, deleting, all of this, putting in your information, building your profile, view your delivery history, understanding that these are all the features that are required, right? Okay, so let's come back to our presentation. If these are the kind of problem solving that you're interested in, then you can do a UX UI. But if all you want to do is create pretty looking screens, I don't think there are no recruiters who don't hire only for that, right? So it's not just research, and it's also not just visual design. It's actually everything that happens in between, right? That is what UX design is, because everybody keeps telling me it's about research and then you do good design, but actually the work of a UX UI designer is in between all of this, right? And we collaborate with a whole lot of people. So you should like to collaborate, and you should have the necessary collaboration skills. You collaborate with researchers, sales and marketing team who provide you market insights, other visual designers, because you're not expected to do everything. You will hire somebody who will do illustrations or motion graphics or icon design, and you have to explain it to them. You also work with actually writers who write all these things, developers who finally codify your design to execute it. So you have to collaborate as a UX UI designer with all of these people, right? Because being a human in the digital world is about building the digital world for humans, right? Shubhangi has spoken about this in the beginning, but I'd just like to reiterate that these are a few things that we consider as the key features of our courses. We start from fundamentals. We start from the very, very basic, right? We don't teach only software. We teach design beyond software. Industry practitioners with real industry exposure and understanding are our mentors. And something that we take great pride in is the top right corner of my screen, that we teach by, I mean, or rather you learn by doing. So it's not a lecture mode. You can't learn design by listening to others. You learn design by doing, because learning to design is to learn to think differently. So live sessions, feedback from mentors, discussion with peers, making mistakes, redoing your work. Uh, you have to roll up your sleeves, get your hand dirty. That's how you learn design. That's how all design schools of the world teach. And if and is going to try and teach the same level of design in online space, then we have to replicate the same way of learning, right? Stackable courses. Sometimes we're not ready to make a long commitment. We'll just talk about that as well. You can start small, keep building, and finally, career development, right? So we don't stop at over with just your upskilling. There is somebody to help you and take you to um, connect you to recruiters, facilitate your recruitment process. Finally, it is about actually the skills that you gain and the knowledge you gain and how you exhibit it in front of a recruiter. But you need facilitation of that, and that's what our CSD team does. And my colleague Sachin is going to explain that just in a little while. But Sachin, before that, I'll quickly run through the courses as well. So the courses that we have are, we have a PG diploma in UX UI design, which is a year-long course. I recommend it for people who uh, who are looking to have a slightly more broader range of skills. And Sachin will confirm in a little while when he takes over, that recruiters, the industry trend that we are seeing, and he interacts with several recruiters every day. The industry trend that he tells me is that people are looking for designers who are slightly broad range, because you should be able to handle all aspects of, or the entire spectrum, right? So for them, we recommend the PG diploma. But if you don't have that 1 year, then you can start with a certificate course, which is the shortest form of our course, which is 20 weeks, where you learn the fundamentals. Um, we don't claim that you're job ready at the end of the certificate course, but you understand fundamentals. It's enough for you to also explore whether you want to pursue UX UI design as a career or not. And if, for example, you have been a Figma operator for a long time, but want to understand now the UX side of it, then the certificate course makes sense. And in those 20 weeks, if you realize that you want to learn more, then you can extend and go to the diploma level by studying for another 16 weeks. All our courses are part-time. They are conducted online, and classes happen 2 times in a week, 7 p.m. to 10 p.m., plus a third session of software, right? But more importantly, in addition to the sessions, what you need to put in is minimum 6 hours of self-study every week. Okay, so uh, yeah, I mean, this is actually how the trajectory works, right? Um, and who is this course for? A graduate? You need to be a graduate. You can be from an allied creative field. We get a lot of interior designers, architects, fashion designers, graphic designers, uh, you know, who now want to switch sideways. We get techies who've learned coding but realize that they don't only want to code, they enjoy the problem solving part of it more. So, if you belong to any of these groups, then you can consider. Our mentors, we are very, very proud of, come from prestigious institutions, um, and have worked with um, prestigious organizations. Um, these are some of our mentors whom we are very, very proud of. And um, with that, I hand over to Sachin to talk about a little bit about the industry landscape, and how does his team help our learners after their learning journey is over, the gap between the learning and working in the industry, how does his team work with our learners? That's what Sachin will say. Over to you, Sachin.
Thank you, Prati. A very good evening to all of you guys. A quick understanding and introduction. I had the career services for And Academy. Additionally, I also had the career services for Indian Institute of Art and Design, which is the parent organization or the other full-fledged college that you would have come across while researching about And Academy. So to give you a gist about what we do a lot of stuff. But before that, I would like to give you a perspective that there are around 18% growth, I would say, avenues, or rather, I would say, numbers from 2020 to 2025 that have been projected by CNN, and there are others also who kind of second the same kind of percentage in terms of growth. We have experienced a growth of almost 15% over the last 10 years, specifically in the UX and UI industry. And when it comes to the kind of jobs, in fact, Prachiram, this would be an old number. We have more number of opportunities now. If you would say, just do a random search on LinkedIn, on Indeed, and on Naukri.com, you will find much more jobs available worldwide, and it includes freelancing opportunities, it includes remote, it includes internship, everything. So basically, anyone who wants to start afresh can offer any kind of these avenues, provided the kind of exposure you want to get into. Plus, according to the recent study, in fact, there was a previous study almost like 5 years back where the UX UI skills were considered as the top 20 skills by LinkedIn. And this time as well, there is a new study which came like last month. There also, design has been considered as one of the top skills required by any individual. Forget about any other domain. Forget about just design, but any other domain. Design is that one principle. Design is one quality of skill that you would need in any other domain as well. With respect to the next part. So, what kind of companies generally hire you? Any company in the tech domain, could be a fintech, edtech, e-commerce, whatever. Product companies which make digital products, or they service the digital product. Could be the likes of, let's say, IBM. They make a lot of digital products. They also provide services to these kind of companies. Then there are design agencies. So there's a lot of work that the design agencies do in terms of creating a lot of interaction pieces, navigation pieces, or full-fledged UX UI projects. But again, not on very large scales, on smaller scales. Like, let's say I want to get my website done. So I would not go to an IBM or a Wipro. Rather, there would be a design agency who would design the entire stuff for me. Next page, please. So what we actually cover in the entire segment of career services, we do a full-fledged 6-session module, which is what we call career development module, where we have starting from setting up your goal to finding the right path in terms of how you would reach the goal, to designing your elevator pitch, to preparing your resume, to preparing your LinkedIn, and finally also giving you a gist about the inclusion of AI in design. We also go, and after that, people who want to go for our placement support, we also align their competencies and their career goals through a one-on-one, almost 45-minute session. Now, this session is very intense. It may sound like it's like a casual chit chat, but practically we go deep into the background, the professional and the personal background of the individual to understand where are they coming from, what are they going for, what are the kind of career goals they are aspiring for, and then align their expertise, align their efforts into the right direction. Then the kind of companies that we usually have got through, in fact, it's there on the website also. You can go and have a broader research about it. But around there are 20 plus sectors which have been recruiting from us for last several cohorts. which includes the SaaS-based companies, tech companies, e-commerce companies. There have been health companies, health and wellness companies as well. There have been some design agencies as well. Next, please. This is a list of, this is an indicative list because again, on a one pager, I could not include all of them, but this is a gist of what kind of companies generally come in. So to give you a context here, Squire, ma'am, could you please go back for a second? Yeah. So let's say Squire is a kind of a marketplace where you can find a lot of flats and all kinds of. Basically, it's a real estate platform. Then Geeky Ants is a pure tech company. Then Blue One again is pure tech company. GradRide is an edu tech company. I don't think I need to specify what Uber does or what the other Sony company works. Next slide, please. These are some of our success stories where these kids have been placed. Sorry for saying kids because again, I've been used to considering all these students as kids, but now you are professionals. So please pardon me for that. Misbah is successfully placed with Vaya Technologies. Then Raksha, in fact, Raksha started. So they, as I said earlier, that you can go for an internship. You can also go for a placement as well. So Raksha actually started with Web Integrators with an internship, and she just recently got confirmed as a full timer as well. Similarly, Yash entered with an internship with Equity Knowledge Partners, and now he's working a full timer. Thanks, please. Any questions, guys? I'm more than happy to address if you have any questions related to what kind of companies, what kind of exposure, whatever you feel like.
Thank you so much, ma'am, and thank you so much, sir, for sharing all your wisdom and insights with our very curious learners. I'm hoping we'll get some questions. If you have any questions, I request you to put it in the Q&A box that you see at the bottom of your screen, and we'll be able to answer them systematically. We're a little over time. We're running 2 minutes above time. So let's wait for like 3 to 5 minutes if people have questions. And if no, then we'll move on to closing this webinar session. Meanwhile, people are thinking or pondering over their questions. I would just like to mention that if you're looking to begin your UX, UI design journey, now is the right time to do that because our batches are going to start on 19th of July. We have the orientation, and right now we're running a very fun offer, which is a victory scholarship. We are celebrating with Team India and offering you a flat 5K off on all courses. So get in touch with your course advisor. They'll be able to tell you much more in depth about it. If you have an application that you're just about to finish or put in, now is the right time to be doing that. Okay, let's wait a minute more.
There is a question, Shubhangi, finally.
Oh, yeah. Okay, cool. Somebody is asking, I'm currently working as a software quality assurance engineer and have been in this role for 2 years. I'm considering switching to a UX UI career. Could you please let me know if this course is suitable for someone with my background and goals?
So I think this is by Neil. Neil, I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. Yes, I think this is a good course for you. My recommendation would be a PG diploma because you will need to start from the fundamentals of visual design and move into UX UI. But if you don't have that 1 year to spare, then the UX diploma will also be good. But with your background in software, as a software engineer, I think this would be a good course for you.
Yeah, thank you for that, ma'am. Do we have any more questions?
So like our next batch starts very soon. And seats are almost full. But we might just have a couple of them left. So if you do want to be part of this, get in touch with our admission team and act fast. But if you think that you need some more time to think about it, we have batches starting in every 4 months. Then we'll see you again later, right? Shubhangi, maybe we can close now.
I think we can close now. So thank you, people who stuck around till the end of this webinar. Thank you for joining us and sticking with us. We're hoping to see you in class very soon. So if not here, we'll see your questions in the class. If not, then we'll pick on you and then ask you questions. But okay, thank you for joining today. Thank you, ma'am, for your wonderful presentation. Thank you, Sachin sir, for all the insights and the wisdom that you bring in on the career aspect of this course in the industry. With that, I say goodbye to everyone and good night.